Today, I'm going to show you how to shift between low carb, high fat, carnivore, and ketogenic diets if one is not working for you and you're ready to slide to the next, how it should be done. Welcome everyone to my lovely channel. Spring is here and the sun is out and I'm just soaking up the vitamin D. But let's get into it. The reason why you would slide between these diets is because either you have a gallbladder problem, or you have a blood sugar problem, or you're having histamine or high iron or B12. So believe it or not, some of you cannot do a lot of red meat. You're not absorbing the B12 or the B complex, or you're not absorbing the iron, and high iron in the blood, which is called hemochromatosis, is very dangerous. So you might want to go over to low carb, high fat with very moderate to low, or even keto until you can work out that gut. So a lot of people who've got big holes in the gut wall, they're not absorbing the iron, and then hence they're starting to have these malabsorptive issues, which can be quite serious. Some people have gallbladder issues. In fact, most people, so bad they can't hit their fat goals, which is over 200 grams of fat, most of it coming from rendered fat, because there is not enough fat on your ribeye or your ground beef to drive ketosis. And you can't be using the MCT oil and the coconut oil. That's not going to drive ketosis. Animal fat is going to do this. But if you have a gallbladder issue, I've done several videos about this, either no gallbladder or sludge or stones or a tight gallbladder, then you might want to stick with a low carb, high fat, which is still starch based, which is like red potato, parsnip, sweet potato, and I hear my horses running outside, or jasmine rice. Yes, these are the type of starches you can do in a low amount. Now I know that rice is higher in starch, so you would do less of an amount than, let's say, red potato, which is quite low in starch or carbohydrates. But if you're having such an issue with your gallbladder, you might want to lower your fats, and I might use, instead of doing 45 grams of fat on a plate in a main meal, you might do 15. Really, you should be doing 50 to 60 grams on your plate, but some people just can't handle it because of the gallbladder. They're not releasing enough bile, or they don't have a gallbladder. They still release bile from the liver, but they're not able to break down the fats coming in because, of course, they're having liver issues as well, or biliary duct system issues. And your body can work itself out to not have a gallbladder, but still release enough bile to break down the fats, just not as effective or efficient as having a gallbladder. And of course, I'm going to put together a whole video about low carb, high fat, what the macros look like, and when to start or when to stop and slide to the next dietary measure or lifestyle. Now, if you can't tolerate carbs and you become super hypoglycemic on carbs, a high fat, ketogenic, or carnivore diet would be advantageous. Now, I think that people should do carnivore to fight inflammation, and that's it. And for the short term, I think that carnivore is a great strategy. But ketogenic diets, you're going to be able to still get in that prebiotic fiber, or the, prebiotic fiber, or the avocados, which are high in potassium, which people would not do on a carnivore diet. So if you're having super bad, horrible hypoglycemia, then eating starch and eating low carb is not going to work that well for you. If you have problems with plants, and you can do none, you can do zero, then a carnivore diet for the short term is amazing. And if you want to meet the two dietary protocols and have a little bit of carbohydrates and get your minerals from avocados and other plant source foods with the meat and high fat, then keto is where I think that people can sustain that for a longer time, because of course prebiotic fiber helps stabilize the gut microbiome and produce diamine oxidase, which is an antihistamine. I recommend that people go from a standard American diet, if you've never done this low carb thing before, to low carb, high fat. I used to have people go straight to keto or carnivore. No. Let's work out the whole gallbladder issue first. Sometimes it just takes a couple weeks for the gallbladder to work itself out or become untight or unthicify. So you could start with low carb, high fat, and start with, like I said, sweet potato, red potato, sweet potato, red potato, parsnip is what I meant to say, or white jasmine rice for the short term. Now, the actual macro amounts, I'll do that. I'll talk about that again in another video. And then your fats are going to be around 100 to 120, whereas ketogenic fats are going to be between 200 and 300. So it's a low carb, higher in fat dietary protocol, but you are still carb dependent, glucose dependent. For those, and hypoglycemia goes in two directions. Either you are hypoglycemic on carbs, or you're hypoglycemic not eating carbs. And you have to know, you have to pay attention to your health and figure out which person you are. If you start with low carb, high fat, and you want to graduate to a carnivore diet, then you do that for the short term. If you have a very severe histamine response to plants, get that gallbladder working, right? Just don't go and add 200 grams of fat right away unless you have a perfectly functioning gallbladder. How you test that is eat a brick of butter for the whole day. 227 grams of fat for one day. And if you've got zero problems, you don't really have to start with low carb, high fat unless you have severe hypoglycemia. And if you're not eating carbs, you're not in ketosis. And that's the thing. You can make ketones and not use them. You can have your blood sugar moderate to low and be hypoglycemic. So you got to know. Use a glucometer. I talk about that in other videos. Once you've gone and done the low carb, high fat, and sometimes people might take 6 weeks to work their gallbladder out, and they want to go to carnivore to get their inflammation down, then go to carnivore after you get the gallbladder fixed. Because if the gallbladder is not working, you're really going to frack up your thyroid not being able to eat enough fat, because you can't get enough energy, cannot, from protein. It doesn't store glycogen. Eating protein is not going to work to give you energy. It cannot restore glycogen within the muscle cells. It cannot. It can give you liver glycogen, which you run out of very quickly, and blood glucose. That's not good. And when your energy reserves and your gas tank is empty, the body goes into gluconeogenesis, which is cortisol driven, and you don't want your body to go down the cortisol pathway and start fracking you up. Now, like I've said in so many videos, people are very dogmatic about the diet that they choose, and if they believe it, they're just like a vegan. They're like, I'm a vegan, I'm a carnivore, and I'm amazing, and it's amazing. And they just ignore all the other symptomology because it's the risk-benefit ratio. They feel that they've done so well on carnivore, they just sort of ignore the bad things that happen. Once you do a carnivore diet to get your inflammation down, and the timeline is different for everyone, doing a short-term carnivore diet because you might have SIBO, leaky gut, histamine, right? Those are the main reasons. Any type of inflammatory disorder, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, reproductive issues, endometriosis, fibroids, joint pain, seasonal allergies. Once you literally get the inflammation down before you start rebounding, do keto. And I give people the timeline to do carnivore from about 6 weeks to about 6 months max. Then you want to add just a wee bit of plants back in for the potassium and to stabilize the gut microbiome for diamine oxidase. And a lot of people will comment in the comment section, "You're wrong." Am I? Do you know anything about DAO or N-methyltransferase? Because you seldom or never, it's never been mentioned. It's just like, I'm amazing. That's all you ever hear. But the reality is, I have a podcast. It's called Real People with Real Stories. Go check it out. Lots of people are having problems rebounding doing carnivore for too long, especially with DAO. And of course, your electrolytes. Once you have gotten your inflammation down, slide over to keto and you can just ride the line of carnivore. Slowly reintroduce plants back in. That's a whole nother video, how to actually seal up the gut wall to where you don't have SIBO, mast cell activation, bloat, plants in your poop. When the gut seals up, the inflammation goes down, these food sensitivities go down, and my phone's about to die, so let's wrap this up. Once you do that, you can go over to ketosis land, and that's where you can stay for a very long time, and I'll go more into ketogenic diets and how amazing they are. If you guys want to learn more, go to stephanieperson.com and book a consultation. I've been doing this 8,000 people deep. I have pretty much hit almost every health issue you can imagine. It's not just about weight loss, it's about everything, hormones and malabsorptive issues, sleep issues, reproductive issues on top of issues, and people taking HRTs and TRT and all that, and getting stronger and healthier and sleeping better. You can also sign up for my course where I cover all 3 diets through stephanieperson.com. My Instagram is Stephanie Ketogenic. My Facebook fan page is Stephanie the Business Person. And now I have to go and finish this darn challenge information, my 30-day challenge. Still doing it. I know, y'all. I've got horses, dogs, my mother, houses, land. It's coming together, though. And I'm out. Peace. Energy. 56. I'm almost 57. What? How did that happen?